My research was done on Rita Williams Garcia. Rita Williams Garcia was born in Queens, New York on April 13th, 1957. She was the third and final child of a military man and a domestic servant. Shortly after her birth, due to her father's military career, the family moved to Arizona for a very short stint and then to Seaside, California. She described her childhood in California in an interview with Hazel Rockman for Booklist that it was a great childhood. The children were always getting into something. They spent most of their time outdoors. And she actually states in this interview, "My sister was an artist. My brother was into math. I loved words. I just thought that was normal. To characterize me as a kid, you could say that I was definitely a geek." In fact, Williams Garcia had taught herself to read at the age of 2. She did this by realizing that letters and sounds were associated, and she mostly did this by looking at billboards. She also accredits her older sister Rosalind because she shared her books with her. At the age of 5, she was already writing stories and poems. These were mostly about her sister and her brother. Both of them were older than her. Her sister was Rosalind and her brother was Russell. Like I said, she was born in 1957, so growing up in the 1960s exposed Williams Garcia to the racial issues that the civil rights movement encompassed. In an interview with Goodreads, she discusses how aware she was of these events going on. Specifically, she remembers Dr. Martin Luther King, his works, his assassination, and she vividly remembers after his assassination and following the 1968 riots, discussions of race relations and racism in the classroom. In an interview for the African American Literature Book Club, she also discusses events from the time which she vividly remembers, such as seeing Senator Robert F. Kennedy for the first time, his assassination, the discovery of the Jackson Five, the Black Panthers, and the first men landing on the moon. At 12 years old, her family moved to Georgia for 6 months. Then they moved back to Queens, New York, specifically Jamaica, which is a section in Queens. When they moved back to New York, things changed. The children were not allowed to play outside, so to entertain herself, Williams Garcia began to write stories. In an interview with Carla Surratt for the Brown Bookshelf, she discusses how the events and experiences of this time would serve as inspiration for her writing. Music and art were specific inspirations for her. She also discusses how unpredictable objects of inspiration, such as a box of Jiffy cornbread mix, which actually inspired one of her later short stories, Clay. At 14, Williams Garcia sold her first story to Highlights magazine. 6 years later, while she was enrolled at Hofstra University, she sold another short story to Essence magazine. However, while she was enrolled at Hofstra University, she placed writing to the side. She got caught up in dance, politics, community outreach, teaching high school girls remedial reading. As most college students do, we just get busy and we experience new things, we try new things, and that is exactly what Williams Garcia did. However, her senior year of college, she took a creative writing class, and this catapulted her back into the writing scene. She continued to write throughout the 1980s. However, unlike the stories she wrote in her younger days, her stories weren't based solely on her own experiences and firsthand accounts. She used stories from the girls that she had taught and been with in her community outreach. She used their real life accounts and stories. She used the first-hand accounts of elders and their perspectives of the past events and eras, cultural and familial relevance in black communities, and of course, she did use the experience of herself and things she had witnessed as inspiration for her stories. These stories would be directed towards and depict primarily contemporary experiences of urban black girls. Excuse me. The overriding theme in her works are struggles that her characters, which are predominantly teen girls, face with self and with choice. Her works are aimed at preteen and teenage readers and revolve around stories which the reader can relate to and reflect their own ideas and experiences on. They depict transition periods for teens and teenagers, and for black teens in particular, this time is a time when their racial development involves a move from their parents' perspective to their own perspective and their own beliefs. This is backed up by varying developmental theories. And for this reason, Williams Garcia chooses to write from a point of view in which her characters are pitted against themselves. They don't experience a sudden awareness or confrontation with race. They're never fully divorced from issues which surround black teens, but race and confrontation aren't the major theme of her works. In an interview with Hazel Rockman for Booklist, she states, I really don't think we deal with the complex issues of our young people's lives. We tell them about racism and those kinds of things, but then there's that real person who has to deal with the fact that he is not a symbol, he is not a model, he is a real flesh and blood person who makes mistakes and has to keep moving and learning and accepting all these things as a part of life. It's what you come to know about yourself that is more important than any big thing that might happen to you. Williams Garcia also incorporates cultural and historical and socio-political themes into her works, and these specifically pertain to black women. Historical experiences such as slavery, Reconstruction, liberation movements, these all contributed to the black woman stereotype, and Williams Garcia uses this to her advantage. She looks beyond the stereotypes and displays how prominent female influence can shape young women and specifically shapes her characters. In her story, One Crazy Summer, she combines these themes of self, choice, identity, culture, cultural identity, and of course the significance of female influence in shaping teen girls. The story starts out in Brooklyn, New York, and quickly shifts to California in 1968. And as we know, this is a setting she is all too familiar with, as she was born in New York, moved to California, back to New York. She is very familiar with this setting. The sisters in the story are Delphine, Vanetta, and Fern. They live with their grandmother, Big Ma, and their father, Papa. And after some deliberation between the adults, the girls are sent to spend the summer with their mother, Cecile. Their mother actually abandoned them shortly after Fern, which is the youngest, after her birth. When they get to California, rather than spending time with the girls over the summer, Cecile sends them to a Black Panther summer camp every day. The way she does this, she actually tells the girls that if they want breakfast and they want to eat, they have to go to the community center to get breakfast, and that is where the camp is held. The camp actually provides the children in Oakland, California, which is where it takes place, a place where they are fed, they're taught, and they're kept off the streets, which unfortunately, as we know, when children are running around on the streets, especially in a rundown area, it's nothing but trouble. Delphine had heard on the news and on the streets that the Black Panthers were known for violence and that they were very dangerous. But when the girls get to the camp, they experience nothing but kindness, and they're very welcomed from teachers, from fellow campers, from other people at the community center. While they're at the camp, they learn about unity, they learn about the importance of caring for the planet, they learn about their rights, how to protect themselves should someone target them because of their skin color, and they practice and prepare for a performance at the big political rally which is being held. The camp is nothing like what the girls had expected, but neither is their time with Cecile. One of the most depicting things of this within the book is that Cecile sends the girls to get Chinese food for dinner every single night because she will not allow the girls into the kitchen, which she uses as a printing press for the Black Panthers, along with her own poems which depict Black power. At home with Big Ma, the girls are used to home cooked meals, regular dinners, big, Southern dinners. So, something that truly depicts the changing relationship between Delphine and Cecile is when Delphine gains access to the kitchen and begins to cook dinner every night for her sisters. In a whirlwind of events, Cecile gets arrested for her poems, which describe Black power or the lack of, and the girls have to spend the night for a couple of nights with a friend from camp until Cecile is released. They prepare for their political rally, and they actually decide to perform one of Cecile's poems about Black power. When they perform it, it is a hit among the crowd, and Cecile is actually in the crowd. She was released from jail just in time to see the girls' performance. As the summer comes to a close and it's time for the girls to go back home, Cecile and Delphine have a conversation. They discuss why Cecile left, and as the girls go back home, they are less angry with Cecile, and that relationship is a little bit better than when the summer started. This book, One Crazy Summer, received the John Newbery Medal, the Coretta Scott Award, and was a National Book Award finalist. It's written for grades 3rd through 8th, and it's for ages 10 through 14. It has a Lexile measure of 750L. This novel should be provided in the classroom. It provides an opportunity to teach young readers about history, socio-political, and other factors which have and continue to impact Black women in the United States. In the interview Williams Garcia had with the Brown Bookshelf, she discusses how in the 1980s there weren't many stories which were directed towards contemporary urban Black girls. They were hard to find. They weren't non-existent. They were just hard to find. So she wanted to be the change and write stories for those readers. Her stories offer and serve to foster self-affirmation, develop historical and cultural knowledge, promote imagining expansive and promising futures, and she does this through entertaining, purposeful, and pedagogical experiences. It is the responsibility of an educator to provide their students with texts which portray differing messages, cultures, and experiences. It would honestly be a disservice to students to not provide Williams Garcia's works in the classroom. This specific work, One Crazy Summer, would be perfect for a history lesson or unit concerning the civil rights movement of the 1960s. That's when it takes place. It includes the Black Panthers. It would be a great text to include to display differing sides of those involved. It also would be a great text for an ELA, English Language Arts lesson or unit, as it has several different themes within the book which could be discussed. It also could be used for character appreciation. Anything that discusses self, choice, identity could definitely be used for character appreciation, and as we know, educators are always trying to weave character appreciation into their lessons and classroom activities. Of course, I did do a lesson plan with this book, and my lesson plan was mainly for English Language Arts, and it's on theme. So, for the introduction, the teacher would discuss theme, and that theme is a universal idea or message which the author is expressing in a story. Explain that theme is the big idea, and then I, as the teacher, would ask students evaluative questions such as, do you think it is important to recognize themes, and are all themes the same? And then a divergent question such as, name as many common themes as you can think of. The standard for this, of course, So West Virginia State Standard, it is ELA 5.2, and that states, determine a theme of a story, drama, or poem from details in a literary text, including how characters in a story or drama respond to challenges or how the speaker in a poem reflects upon a topic. Summarize the text. So, as that states, students will be discovering themes within a text and summarizing that. For the direct instruction, the teacher will, of course, review theme. She or he will explain that a story can have multiple themes. For example, in One Crazy Summer, there are multiple themes. Some of the themes are race, friendship, youth, abandonment, prejudice, identity, self, choice, cultural identity, poetry, and reflection. So there are several different themes within the text. For guided practice, the teacher and the class would work together to create a summary of the theme of abandonment on the board or on an anchor chart. It is, of course, the teacher's preference and the materials they have to do so. This will serve as an example for students when they do their independent practice, and of course they could use this as an example when they are composing their own summaries. To get students thinking, to get them thinking about responses, how they're going to do the assignment, the teacher will ask questions such as, what were Cecile's reasons for leaving her family? Why won't she explain her reasons to Delphine? What is Cecile's attitude towards the girls? Who seems angry about the situation at hand? Do you think Cecile regrets abandoning her daughter? These questions should promote student responses. And of course, the teacher and students will work together to form their summary of the theme of abandonment. Following this, students will do their independent practice. They will be placed in mixed ability groups, and each group will be expected to compose a summary of a theme from One Crazy Summer. Students should use quotes or evidence from the text to support their claims. Some of the themes may include friendship, poetry or art, identity, race, prejudice, cultural identity. There's so many. And of course, if one that you wouldn't expect, if a student asks, it can be approved by the teacher. So students will do as we did for our guided practice. As a group, they will summarize their theme of choice. For assessment, formative assessment will be constantly assessing the students by observation as they complete the guided and independent practice. For summative assessment, the students' independent practice will be used. To close the lesson, the teacher will rediscuss theme and answer any remaining questions, and then students will be given an opportunity to discuss their summaries.